All right. I did not sync them. Okay, now we're on. So I am live again on Instagram and TikTok. Today we are going to be discussing. I forgot to put my phone on silent. Oh well. I made that mistake last time and I was like swiping things away. I'm just gonna have to let them be on there. Anyways, today we are going to be discussing intuition versus ego in business. That is a question that I have heard come up a couple times, which is like, which inner voice am I supposed to listen to? How can we figure out which one is actually the one that wants the best for us? And the thing about ego is it can sometimes manifest itself into the physical body. And so then it's like you have this great idea and you get really tired after, right? And you're like, I don't really want to do that. So those are the things we're going to be discussing today, and that we are going to, I'm going to teach you like how you can learn to listen to each voice, how you can understand. Oh, try adding live to story. Sure. um Never mind. How you can understand which voice is speaking and how you can learn to decipher it. And then if we have time, we'll take it a step further and even go into like how you can appease the voice, right? Like how you can change the mindset shifts and things like that. So those are some of the topics of today for this Monday. I am currently figuring out like what the best live schedule is so that I can bring these to you guys at least 3 times a week. It's looking like 11 o'clock Pacific time. I was like, where am I? Pacific time is going to be the best. So I'm thinking we'll do that. I'm a little low energy today. I am on day 21 without any coffee, and today is 21 of 21. Tomorrow I'm getting myself like a big quad shot of something. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, intuition versus ego. What does that even mean, right? What are these little voices inside of our bodies, brains telling us when it comes to actually taking action in our business, right? And so you may have noticed that if you may have noticed sometime in business that this has happened where you're like, you know what? I have this amazing idea, this plan of action. I am about to like run, right? I'm about to run with it. And you're super excited for it. You're like, "Oh hell yeah, like this is it. This is the one. This is the plan." So you get into, last week we talked about flow, right? So you get the idea to do something. And then when you go to formulate the plan, all of a sudden you're kind of like second guessing yourself. And you're like, "Hold on. Is that idea as good as I thought it was? Is that really like the idea that I want to do? Like is that actually like something that I want to do in my business?" Right? So you start to second guess it. Mind you, a little bit ago you were super hyped. You were like, this is the best idea I've had for my business, right? And then your second voice comes in and is like, "Nah, it's not that good." So the difference between these two voices is the first thing that you heard, that was your intuition. That was the download. That was the idea that came to you, right? That is the intuitive guidance, the thing that made you so excited about doing this. The second voice that you heard that came through and was like, actually, I don't think that's a good idea. That is the ego. That's the ego at play. That's the ego doing what the ego does. So what purpose do these voices serve? So let me explain to you in the best way that I know how. The ego is very logical. The ego likes to be comfortable. The ego likes to keep you comfortable. When you think about the ego sets out for pattern recognition. So let's say sometime in the past that you had an idea and you expressed this idea to others. And as you expressed this idea to others, you had like pushback, or you launched something and it completely flopped, or you launched a new program you never landed a client for. Well, then the ego now sees this as a threat. It's saying like, retreat, retreat. So when you have the next new big idea for your business and you're like, this is the idea that I want to run with, the ego recognizing a pattern of, okay, hold on, we've done this before and remember how bad it was, or remember how it didn't work or whatever. Now it's going to psych you out into thinking that it is not a good idea. And the purpose of that, it's really like a safety net, if you will, that it plays. The issue with the ego being the safety net is it's not actually a safety net, because the ego's job to keep you safe has to also keep you comfortable. And as we know, nothing is going to grow in the comfort zone, right? You can't, there's no growth in the comfort zone. So as your ego comes into play and tells you to stop the idea, well, now you're in a cycle. If you listen to ego every single time, you're in a cycle. And I mentioned earlier that sometimes this can manifest in the body. And so what this can look like in the body is if you are going in your business, right? And you're like pushing new bounds and creating these new offers and reaching out to more people and like doing the things that you need to do to get your business to the next stage that you want to see it at. Well, then the way it can manifest in the body is all of a sudden you're like sleepy. You're really tired. You hear this voice that's like, you need to rest. You need to rest, right? And so when we learn to decipher which one is the intuition and which one is the ego, then we know which voice is actually like telling us to rest, right? A lot of the times when we are pushing those upper limits and we feel like we need to rest, that's actually when we need to keep going. And there is a whole, culture out there, if you will, that's like, oh, rest when you're tired, or, honor your rest and stuff. And yeah, you have to honor your rest or your body will make you do it for you. But at the same time, you also have to learn to recognize which one is ego rest and which one is intuitive rest. Okay. And so how do we figure that out? One second. We have to understand what the intuition is. And so if the ego is logical and it recognizes pattern and it's here to keep you safe and it thinks about it, if you will, the ego helps you think about something, then that means the intuition is faith-based. The intuition is in the heart space. If we say ego's in the brain, then the intuition is the heart. And so with the heart space, it serves a higher purpose, right? Anything that you are called to do from the heart space is always going to serve a higher purpose. Intuition is faith-based. It is driven on faith. It often does not make sense. And it won't make sense until you obey it. I'll give you an example. So 3 weeks ago, I had a download that was like, you need to do a detox. Now, I don't really do detoxes. And it was like, you need to do a detox. I was like, what does that mean? And the detox was no alcohol, no coffee, and no soda for 3 weeks. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Me obeying that download, there has been so many more downloads that have come from obeying that one. There has been so many ideas for business from obeying that one. There has been so much more clarity from obeying that one. And the thing of it is, if I'm being completely honest, like oftentimes it was very uncomfortable in the 3D, right? It was very uncomfortable. And so this is where my ego came to play. My ego was like, you don't really need to do that. Like, you're fairly healthy. Like, you don't even drink that much soda. Like, you don't need to, you're not a daily drinker. Like, you don't need to cut it out for 3 weeks and all of these things. But that's the ego's job because it was uncomfortable. So when we take it back to business and to listening to intuition for business, oftentimes it's going to feel uncomfortable in the 3D because it's not of the 3D. It serves a higher purpose. The ego is here with you in the 3D. The ego is like, no, we're going to keep it moving the way we are right here. Whereas the intuition can see ahead into the future. The intuition is pulling you to a higher purpose. Last week, I talked about how when we get these intuitive downloads, it's not something that other people can see. It's not going to make sense to other people. Like when I'm telling people like, oh, I'm not drinking coffee or alcohol or soda for 3 weeks. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you're not an addict, right? That was like the first thing, like, you're not an addict. And I was like, I didn't say I was addicted. I'm just learning. I'm obeying what's going on within, but they can't see the within. And so when we look at that from the space of entrepreneurship, nobody can see what's going on the inside. Nobody can see the downloads that you're receiving. Half the shit you're going to do is going to look insane to people, right? Like if you feel a call, for example, to start going live on TikTok and you barely like have 1,000 followers, or you know what I mean? Like you're not really sure what the topics are going to be. People are going to look at you crazy. They're going to be like, who are you talking to? And it's like, well, I have to do this. There's a vision in the future. There's a download that's come up right now. People are like, you're not even talking to anybody. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? It's not supposed to make sense. That is the two biggest differences. Ego wants it to make sense. Intuition does not always make sense. And so you're like, okay, Nikki, well, those are the two voices. How do I know which one I'm supposed to listen to? So this is where writing comes into play. And I teach intuitive writing. That is a part of my business. That is a part of my coaching. That is a part of everything. And what intuitive writing is let's use an example of a new business idea. So you get a new business idea and you want to go with it. You get an idea for a new service that you want to offer. And so you decide to go with it. And then you feel the pushback later, right? Like, oh, maybe it's not that great of an idea. I don't want to do it. And so what you can do is you take your pen and you grab a piece of paper and you could write at the top of the page, what is holding me back from going for this idea? What is holding me back from offering this service, right? And then what you're going to do after, you take a deep breath, you set a timer for like 5 minutes, and you write every single thing that comes up, even if it doesn't make sense. You write, right? And go for the full 5 minutes. And the reason that I'm telling you to go for the full 5 minutes is because you have to get past the conscious thought to get into the subconscious beliefs. And that's what writing in an intuitive state, like intuitive writing, will do. And so you get past the conscious thoughts and then you get into the subconscious beliefs. Well, now when you're in the subconscious and you're looking at what's underneath the surface, now you can see what ego is trying to keep you safe from or keep you from feeling. So if you do that and you're writing about the service and then something comes up that says, let's say, I'm worried nobody will buy, or last time it didn't sell, or something along those lines. Well, now you know what ego is keeping you safe from. Now you know why you're feeling resistance to the business idea or the business service that you were going to offer that you thought was such a good idea in the first place. So then what do you do next? What does that mean? Like, okay, now I know, now what? So now that you know, the thing that the ego wants is proof. The ego wants proof that it's going to be okay, that you in the human body, are going to be okay. You're not going to feel shame or feel ridiculed or anything like that by listening to the intuition. And so to show it that it's going to be okay, we have to show it proof. We have to show proof of a time that it has worked before. Maybe not identically, but just some type of proof that this is a good idea. This is going to work because XYZ. So something like that, where, you do an intuitive writing and you come to find out that you didn't like, or that last time it didn't work and you felt embarrassed, you felt shame, people made fun of you, whatever it is, right? Well, now you show the ego proof. Maybe the proof this time is that you have learned more in business, or you have studied more in business, or maybe the proof is simply that this is now a service that people are asking for. People are now, asking you like, hey, do you offer this type of coaching? Do you offer this type of consulting, right? They're asking you, do you offer this type of service? Well, now you show that to the ego, and you're like, you could tell the ego, like, this is gonna sound so silly the way I'm gonna describe it, but I'm gonna go for it. You could tell the ego, like, in your head, like, hey, remember last time we launched this, but nobody had even asked for it. We didn't know what we were doing. Like, this was just a brand new business. But now that I'm further along and I've built up some credibility, people are asking for this. We're going to launch the service and it's going to work. Now the ego is shut up. The ego is satisfied, and you go back and you lead with the intuition. And as you continue to lead with the intuition, that's when you watch your business start to go in the direction that it's meant to go. For some reason, every time I go ego versus intuition, I always get out of breath. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it's my ego. Every time I'm comparing the two, I always get out of breath. This happened, I was in a mastermind type of call a couple weeks ago. And I was talking about this, right? I mean, it's not my mastermind, but anyway, somebody had asked a question and I was talking about this, and the same thing happened. Like, all of a sudden I was out of breath. So that's probably something that I need to go channel in and write on. Cause I'm like, there is no reason that this is the only topic where you lose your breath and your mouth gets dry. But anyways, let me look at my notes. What else do we have here? Okay. Let's go into, we briefly touched on how ego manifests in the body, but I want to take that a step further. I want to give you some examples of how ego actually really does manifest itself in the body. So if you are, this is for my this one I'm going to use the example for my service entrepreneurs, because you are the people that I am typically talking to about this stuff. So you are a woman service entrepreneur, right? You offer a service. Your business runs off of clientele. You need clients. Whether you're selling digital products or consulting packages or coaching or whatever, right? Like digital products alongside of having clients, you have to get in front of people. And as we know in business, right, more conversations typically lead to more sales. That's like the sales 101. Like you have to talk to more people, right? And so you're in a state and you're like, I am going to go sign on 3 new clients this week, or I'm going to go sign on 5 new clients this week, or I want to go make 20K this week, right? You get into this mode. You receive that download of, hey, I'm going to 10x my game a little bit. This is where ego is a tricky little thing because your ego will feel you pushing past a comfort zone. It will feel you getting ready to catapult into something new, into a new normal. So you had your current baseline of whatever it is. Well, now you're raising the bar. Now you want this next baseline to be the new normal. And so your ego will give you resistance all the way until you show it, some proof. But this is how it manifests in the body. You get the idea that you're going to go all in, we'll call it. And what happens is suddenly you are filled with exhaustion. This happens to me every single time. It manifests in the body. You feel tired. You feel sleepy. You feel like no matter how much sleep you've gotten, you are tired. And so now you're playing a trick on yourself of, oh, I actually need to rest. I don't need to go hard. I need to rest. I don't need to go and reach out to, 300 new people this week. I need to take a nap. I need to go to bed earlier. I need to sleep in, right? Your body has now manifested that it needs rest. But that's not the case. That's not the case. What's happening here now is your ego has gotten so freaked out by this idea of a new normal, of a new level, that it has taken itself and instead of giving you the thoughts, or it probably started with the thoughts of, we cannot do this, like we're not gonna do this, that's way too much work, that's way too much to do. Now it's going to manifest into the body, and now all of a sudden you're feeling tired when 30 minutes ago you were feeling ultra inspired and ready to take action. So that is something that I want many entrepreneurs to be mindful of, is when you are feeling very tired, I need to withdraw, I need to go into cocoon like era or whatever it is, I want you to pay attention. Like, is it because sometimes you do have to do that. Sometimes that is your intuition telling you to do that. And when your intuition tells you to do that, you do need to listen, because that's how you can receive more guidance. But other times it's not the intuition telling you to do that. It's your ego telling you to do that. It's your ego being so freaked out that it's making the nervous system tired. So now you want to go lay down and take a nap. Okay, so that's again like another way that ego just decides to manifest itself in the body. Whenever you are thinking, is it ego or is it intuition? The main things that I want you to remember is, if it is not taking a leap of faith, if it is not allowing you to follow through by honoring like a faith-based decision, and I don't even mean faith in the religious sense, right? I just mean like honoring the decision that serves a higher purpose within, then likely it is ego. If it feels logical, if all of a sudden you are trying to figure out the how in your brain about the download that you've received, and you want to piece together the how, and you start thinking it's not possible, I can't do it, it doesn't make sense, that's the ego talking. Your intuition is not supposed to always make sense. Your intuition is there to guide you and to lead you, and you just go on the obedience train, if you will, and you obey. And through the obedience, then it starts to make sense. See, ego wants to make sense of it before we've taken any action. Intuition is like, well, we don't even like, intuition's like, we're just going to take the action, and we're going to trust that that we will understand what it means later down the line, right? Ego doesn't operate like that. I want you to compare it to men and women, masculine and feminine energy. If you have a spouse, if you have a guy best friend, you know that men and women operate differently. at the core, right? I'll use like my husband and I for example, right? We're both logical people, but when it comes down to the root of things, I, the wife, am more of the visionary. I can see the vision behind behind whatever, like let's say we're looking at houses, for example, right? And we see these big old houses and I'm like, I could see the vision. I'm like, okay, I could see like that we could get that. I could see how we could do that. I believe that that can happen, right? I'm intuitively guided towards that. Now, the male, and in this case, I'll use my husband as an example, he needs to see the proof. He needs a written plan and not an intuitive writing plan. He needs a plan that is written and showcases how we can make it work right now. That is the logic, right? So and the mind is not like that. I am the visionary. I see the big vision and then I work towards the big vision. That is a feminine trait, a feminine energetic trait. Whereas the men, they see what's right in front of them and they act on what they have in front of them, right? That's the masculine and the feminine. So when we look back, taking it back to the conversation of ego versus intuition, the ego needs the logic right here in front. This is what I can see. This is what feels comfortable. This is how we have to operate because this is what keeps us safe. The intuition sees the further vision. The intuition feels the 100K months in the business. You know what I mean? The ego's like, that is not even safe. Like, that's so uncomfortable. What are you talking about? Right? You know what I mean? Like, and so when you look at it like that, then you see like, okay, if I wish I knew what half these words. There's more explanation. Like you missed some of it in the beginning, but I'll post the replay on YouTube later. But anyways, and so there is. Oh, let me see this one. I want two screens, y'all. Sorry. Explain perfectly. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that's making sense. Anyways. Okay, the ego, I'm like losing my train of thought. The ego it's the logic, right? And the intuition is we'll call it the divine, right? It's the divine. And so when you look at it, like I said, from a masculine and a feminine perspective, whenever you're getting these ideas for big visions or for your business that lead to like a bigger vision, but they don't necessarily make sense, anytime you try to logicalize, if that's a word, it's going to be for this sake of this training. Anytime you try to logicalize it, make it logical, whatever it is, that is 100% the ego. That is the ego. What the ego likes, and here's the irony in all of this. The ego likes the safety, right? The ego likes to be able to predict what is going to happen. To the ego, we can if we don't launch this new service for our business, then to the ego we can predict that we're not going to be ridiculed, we're not going to be shamed, we are not going to be embarrassed, and we are going to just feel good in our little bubble, right? That's the ego prediction. Now here is the irony in that. If the ego's job is to keep you safe and comfortable, there is nothing more uncomfortable than staying in a situation or a place or with these ideas in your head without action, and like basically living on a doomsday. What is that movie, like Deja Vu or something? I watched Supernatural, so I just think of that one episode where he kept repeating Tuesday over and over, where Sam was like stuck in a Tuesday loop. But anyway, so that's like, that becomes life. When we don't listen to our intuition, we only listen to our ego for the sake of comfort. Well, it's not actually comfort. It's not actually comfortable. It's not actually a safety thing, because now we're stuck uncomfortable in a comfortable situation. You see what I mean? Like, you have it placed on your heart that you have this big vision with these different dreams, these different achievements, these goals, a certain bank account, right? A certain amount of money made every single day, right? You see that. Once you have that vision, it does not go away, because it's not like you didn't really create that from your own. Like, that is something that was placed on you as a part of your life's path, your life's purpose, right? And it's a promise that if you obey and do what you're supposed to do, this is the reward. And so when you have that placed on your heart, you can't just get rid of it. But then the challenge is we listen to our ego because we can't decipher the two, because the intuition doesn't make sense. We listen to the ego so much that now we're just stuck in that loop of living comfortably, but feeling uncomfortable about it. You see what I mean? So then it's like, well, even though it's supposed to be a safety net, at the end of the day, it's not really like a safety net. And so this is where I take it to more pattern recognition, which I'll reiterate right now. And so like when it comes to the pattern recognition of it, this goes back to the idea of launching like a new service for your business. If you launched something before and it flopped and you felt a bit embarrassed, ashamed, disappointed, whatever it is, it was an uncomfortable feeling. And so the ego recognizes that with the new service idea that you have, and the ego's like, we don't want to feel that again. So I'm telling you, don't do it. But your intuition is telling you, you need to do it. And so to decipher the two, again, you have to prove to the ego why this time is different. Because in order to quiet the ego needs proof. I want you sometimes, this is controversial in this type of work, but I'm going to say it anyways. I often see the ego as a portion of the inner child. And the reason that this is controversial is because people will say that the inner child is a subconscious like belief and it's your belief system. But I believe that the subconscious, the inner child, and the ego are kind of all simultaneously tied together. Let me get a drink of water and I'm explaining to you exactly why. If the ego's job is to keep you safe and you have an inner child who was ridiculed at some point or something along those lines, that is a subconscious belief that is like running around in the back of your mind, right? In the subconscious. It's controlling the show. So whenever you feel ego pushback, it is the part of you that was ridiculed or shamed or something along those lines back in the day. Now, this could very well be from adulthood or it could stem from inner child, which is why I said sometimes the inner child and the ego are one and the same. Because if the ego is operating on belief systems, well, belief systems generated when you were a small child. And so these belief systems that are running the show, that is where ego shows up to try to keep you in its, perceived safety, if you will. And that is where when we rewire the beliefs and we can show the ego new beliefs and a new belief system, then we can begin to prove to it why we can do the thing, why we can execute the business plan, why we can raise our prices, right? That is how I see all of them going together. How do we change belief systems, Nikki? I was saying earlier, whatever it is, this topic always makes me out of breath. It's so annoying, but I don't know why. I always I only on this topic, I always get out of breath. I could talk about everything under the sun. Anyways, how do we change the belief systems? If you do intuitive writing and if you write more, you will see what belief systems are underneath the surface. Intuitive writing starts with a question on the top of the page, and then you write for 5 minutes, set a timer for 5 minutes and write every single thing that comes up. As you do that, you can pick apart what beliefs are running the show in the background. And when you can see what beliefs are running the show in the background, now you can show it new evidence. Let me see if I have an example, because I do this frequently. Let me find one that I can give you guys like a full example. That is all new moon stuff. Yes, I set new moon intentions in my notebook. That's a Capricorn full moon. Okay, hold on. Let's come later down the line. Let's see. Do I want to offer? Okay, well, this is an example of how to do intuitive writing for your business. This one here. So this one, I was in limbo on if I wanted to offer intensives or sessions for my business. And I simply wrote it out. I just wrote, do I want to offer intensives or sessions? And I wrote everything that came up. And let's see. The main thing that I came up with was that I would do intensives because I needed for a transformation, like you're going to need more than one session. That was a quick one. Why am I so resistant today? Let's see. These are all old. Let me find one that's current. That's my most current one, but that's a channeled writing. That one is personal. Beliefs. The letter. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. This one is business focused. So here's how we can see, let's see. Here's how we can see what is intuitive, right? And so anything that is not of this is going to be of ego. Now I'm just going to read it so that I can break it down for y'all. So what does being bolder look like for my business? Okay, so that is an example of a question you can start at the top of your page to uncover like what you intuitively need to do to lead in your business. Being bolder in my business looks like calling out superficial things among entrepreneurs. I should probably read this before I read it out loud. It's okay. It looks like targeting women entrepreneurs, calling out underlying frustrations. It looks like talking about how money does not always equal happiness, and that even though they started off with good intentions, they cannot continue to go beneath the surface. It looks like talking about how offers can make money and still not light you up. It looks like sharing my business losses and explaining how my business was a product of others requires me to continue in my truth. It will bring other women to me to share my relatability. I have to paint a better picture of intuitive writing and the benefits while also diving into the non-writing shifts. That's exactly what these lives are now. I must look at this like identity work where the method is the writing, not the outcome. If you want to attract non-writers and speak to their desires, the desire to uncover a sense of belonging, the desire to help others, the desire to not fear business changes. Since these desires are on their hearts, they will know it is for them. Your job then becomes showing them how to uncover where in the 3D they can access this. This is scripting. Teach them how to script to uncover their how. In these identity shifts, you will become known for the method. The sooner you become bold, here we go. The sooner you become bold and stop worrying about temporary hurt feelings, the sooner the tribe will come. That right there, that is where intuition and ego come to play. So this whole thing is intuitive writing, right? But where the ego can come to play is, and a portion would also be the inner child, would be the worry about like hurting feelings, like temporary hurt feelings. And so what does that mean? So something, this is personal to me, so this would be like you would have your own, but something that is personal here would be like the idea of hurting feelings, stepping on toes, right? The idea that tough love may not be perceived in the way that I wanted it to. And again, that was an old entry. So when I know that, when I do my writings and I know that through the intuition that, excuse me for one second, when I know that through intuition that I am supposed to essentially do like a tough love type of calling in my business, right? That's how it's supposed to run. That's what came through for me. I know that my ego will not want that. My ego will try to keep that safe. So anytime that I feel like I'm doing any type of tough love or anything like that, and I feel called to do it intuitively, anytime I feel resistance against that, I now know that that is an ego trick, because none of the writing comes from the ego. The writing is coming from the intuition. From the intuition, then whatever the opposite is, would come from the ego, right? This is what comes from the logic. This is what comes from the side of you that doesn't want to be uncomfortable. And so when you look at it like that, and when you actually start doing intuitive writing and asking yourself these questions and writing everything that comes up, this is how you can uncover which voice is talking, because now you're becoming more in tune with your intuition. And by becoming more in tune with your intuition, you know that any voice that is of the opposite of what is written in your notebook, what is written for you, is automatically going to be the ego trying to be logical and trying to keep you in this safety comfort zone. But the more you listen to ego, the less safe it actually becomes, because now you are uncomfortable in a comfortable space. So I'm going to leave today at that, for the fact that I keep losing my breath and I don't know why. And that it has been about 30 minutes. And so I'm going to leave that session at that. When I upload this replay to YouTube, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. Again, I am always more, what's the word? Active. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm more active on Instagram. So if you like these types of discussions, if you want to learn how to use your intuition for business, definitely follow me over on Instagram. It's the same username, @NikkiLynn.creative. I have freebies in my bio. There is a business vision meditation with a journaling guide so that you can uncover your business vision from your higher self, right? From your intuitive self. And then a journaling guide so you can make sense of it. After today, you now know that if you are doing something and the voice goes against what is written in your notebook, that is your ego. How do we quiet the ego? By showing it new beliefs, showing it new proof, right? So anyways, that is over in my bio. There's also 65 journal prompts. You can join my newsletter, The Spiritual Side of Entrepreneurship, where I break all of this down in writing. And then the last thing is I have 3 one-on-one spots for anybody who wants to go on a 6-week transformation. If you are somebody who wants to learn how to use your intuition for your business so that you can lead your business from your intuition, quiet out the ego, and actually have a business that feels good and is operating on the highest level, send me a DM, just say one-on-one or intensive or something like that, and we can discuss and see if it's a good fit for us to work together. But it is a 6-week journey. We meet once a week on video like this, and then you also have me on Voxer. So if anything comes up during the week, which it will, we can work through it during the week. Anyways, that is all. I will see you guys tomorrow it should be at 11 a.m. Pacific time with a new topic. Bye.